What new trends? Now, this was the topic that we chosen to discuss in this discussion. So, what are new trends of marketing in the COVID-19 times? You think, and what is the way forward for us now?
Sure. So I think, the entire COVID time has been a very disorienting time for most companies and manufacturers, right? Now, whether we see last year, same quarter, or we see even this year, same quarter, moment there is a disruption because of COVID, what tends to happen is that, there's a degree of uncertainty. Hmm? When there is uncertainty, you often find that, either commodity prices go up or they go down, right? Sales gets paralyzed because either you can go to the market or not. Distribution gets hit. Yeah. So in this aura of uncertainty, one of the first things that you see most brands doing is really pulling out investments, right? And in fact, what I have found very interesting last year is actually those brands which stayed the course and who continued investing actually were the ones that benefited. Yeah. Now, when you invest, there are multiple avenues to invest on, right? And what we have realized in the times of COVID, that some of the standard avenues of investments have got disrupted. Okay. Now, when you would want to invest, you would invest behind fresh programming, right? And last year we realized fresh programming was not happening. So there were reruns of Mahabharata and Ramayana going on. Yeah. The second time that, second place that one would want to invest is in your 360 vehicles, which is things like print, radio, outdoor, right? Now, with limited mobility, some of those avenues didn't seem as effective, right? And hence people wondered, beyond TV, where should I invest? Yeah. The third is point of buying. Now, point of buying, which is traditionally, area where most marketers wish to invest, it started becoming sort of ineffective because people were taking a few visits to the shelf. This year, I think most of the outlets have started providing home delivery. So suddenly, point of buying that does not become a very great way to invest. Yeah. The third is in digital. Sure, there is Facebook and YouTube, but what else? If digital is going, what are the other areas to invest in, right? So I think these were some of the fundamental questions that marketeers had. Yeah. And hence, what I was really intrigued to see on how people evolved, pivoted, and how the trends are changing even today, right? So if TV programming got disrupted, we had a lot of brands trying to come onto the Hotstar OTT platforms, right? Because the penetration of smart TVs have risen, right? And I was particularly impressed to see Surf Excel, pivoting from their proposition of Daag Achhe Hain to Daag Ghar Pe Rahenge, right? And they used Hotstar OTT to sort of show their property. Yeah. Similarly, when you had print outdoor getting disrupted, you had a large growth in digital, right? Especially things like news apps. News apps is a place where a lot of brands started investing in, right? Bollywood releases were stalled, and then you had brands like Vedantu, which took on the sponsorship of Shakuntala Devi with their release on Amazon, right? So that again was a very interesting pivot. When point of buying was getting impacted, brands realized that a lot of business is going to move over to e-commerce. So you suddenly had disproportionate growth in e-commerce, and you had disproportionate focus by marketers in trying to make the best of e-commerce as a tool, right? And I think all marketers and manufacturers have now started, fastidiously trying to study what is a line fill, our case fill, our search rankings, and hence really, e-commerce marketing has become a lot more of a science. It's moved beyond just what I do once in a while towards becoming, bread and butter of marketing, budgets, right? And lastly, as I mentioned, if there was a challenge in the fact that, we have already overused a YouTube or a Facebook, where else on digital do I invest? And you suddenly see so many brands coming onto new age digital devices like Spotify, Ghana, podcasts, right? And the interesting part of the learning with these devices is that the same creative unit does not work. An ad which works on TV is inefficient for YouTube because the consumer has got a time of only say 6 seconds before he probably kicks on a skip. Yeah. And hence you need sharper units, you need units which work on mute, you need units which might have text interface with images. Similarly, a radio ad unit does not work on Spotify. Spotify is not about shouting over traffic. Spotify is about making an intense and intimate connection when the AirPod is in the ear of the consumer, right? So hence all these new avenues of marketing have forced marketeers not just to innovate in new media devices, but also in fresh creative units, which makes it effective on these media.
Right, and quite valid ones, because behavior is changing. Consumer behavior is not now limited. No, it is majorly into digital, and I mean there is no other scope that where you can buy. I agree, absolutely. So let's take in a conversation around the new context I would like to bring into the discussion is about CSR. So CSR with marketing campaigns, do you think are they worth?
It's a very interesting question. And, as I was trying to decode the various pieces of communication that I've seen over the last couple of years, because now we're almost into a second year. And what I realized, from the point of view of the rules of communication, right? So one of the first rules that I sort of decoded is the fact that, as consumer behavior changes, new passion points arise, right? So if in-home cooking is today all in the vogue, you'll have a lot of brands trying to make themselves relevant using new consumer passion points. Yeah. At the same time, the consumer expects you to be sensitive, right? And CSR clearly is something that shows brands as being sensitive, right? But at the same time, you have to be relevant. Yeah. Now, a CSR campaign, which is sensitive, but has got nothing to do with the brand or product opportunity, is not really going to drive your business. It might drive some talk value, but it is not something that is going to drive your business ambitions, right? And hence, a brand or a manufacturer needs to keenly examine all of these three questions. One, am I activating a passion point that my TG associates with? Second, am I being sensitive in my communication, or am I just taking on an old conversation? Third, is my initiative relevant to them? Yeah. Now these are the three touch points. Okay. Now on the basis of these metrics, one of the brands that did a large campaign which is linked to CSR last year was Amazon, right? And Amazon talked about celebrating their employees, right? Now they got a lot of positivity, but at the same time there was skepticism, because there were reports of how Amazon in the US was not even giving the mandatory 7 or 10 days leave for their employees who had COVID, right? So you cannot just make a CSR campaign and then not walk the talk, because the moment you are going into a sensitive space, consumers will be all the more careful to say, are you just doing this for a buzz value, or do you really believe in this? Yeah. And hence, integrity as well as values, right? Authenticity remains the buzzword of what consumers really expect from brands and corporates. So if there is a CSR campaign which is relevant, but it is also authentic, I think you will get the rewards for it. If it is inauthentic and it is done simply because it's the buzz and why don't we do something about it, I don't think it's the right thing to do.
That's right. So, I mean, added to the purpose is basically you're recommending while doing the campaigns.
Yes, yes. You should be very clear about it, saying that, does it talk to, the passion points of your consumers, your TG? Is it something which is presented in a manner which is sensitive? Secondly, is it relevant? Yeah. And are you willing to walk the talk? Is it just something which you're doing for a short-term benefit, or is it something that you really believe in from the long term and really have been working toward? Like, for example, I think the beneficiaries or the people who got the most positive vibe during this time were the Tatas. And Tatas, not because of what they did in the pandemic, but what they have always stood for. They have always stood for integrity. It's not that today there is a pandemic, so they need to do something about it. It is something which they have known to have been doing for many years, and they are doing more than that, more than what they have done in the past. Now that's integrity. That's something that you can respect and believe in, but it cannot be a flash in the pan.
That's very right. High regards for it. In fact, the example that you shared.